Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I recently shared some hidden binding albums that I created using my mini cinch, and I told you all to let me know if you'd like a tutorial, and a few of you said you would, so here I am. All right, so for this album, I'm creating a mini album that has a square binding, and I'm using 6x6 pages. So just 6x6 pages, and I just took them out and used the guides on my cinch to make these holes. So you just put it in A because it's a whole measurement, so 6 inches, and then you punch and then continue based on this guide. So that is what I used. So for the actual outside of the book, you will need 3 pieces of chipboard, 2 that are 6.5 by 6.5, and then 1 that is 1 by 6.5. Not sure if you can see that. I want a 1-inch binding or 1-inch spine. I have all my pages here. I have my binding wires. You will need your 2 sheets of cardstock to cover this. And those will be 8 by 8 3/8, so 2 of those. And then you will need 1 sheet that is the same height of your pages, if that's what you're going by. So I'm going by my height of my page. And this is just a 12 by 6 piece of paper that I folded in half. But I'll get into that in a moment. So 1 6 by 12-inch page. All right, so now we're going to take that 6 by 12-inch page, and you're going to score down the middle. So I score at 6. And then dependent on the size of your rings, you will determine where you would want to score. So my rings are 5/8. So ideally I would score around the 3/8 mark, which I do have a score line there. But because my spine is 1 inch, I'm going to score at the 1/2 inch mark. So it's totally up to you. So basically whatever your ring size is, you would score at half of that. So if you have 1-inch rings, you would score at 1/2 inch. If you have 2-inch rings, you would score at 1. But mine, I'm basing it off the width of my spine here. Then I go in with my my mini cinch, and I make sure that I punch the holes to be exactly the same way that I punch my page. That's why I make it the exact same width as my page, so I know it's going to line up. So as you can see, it does. All my holes match. So there we go. You're going to need this later, so I'm just going to put this to the side, and let's work on the outside of our album. All right, so then it's time to score your papers, the 8 3/8 pages. So you are going to score on your 8-inch side. You are going to score at 3/4 and 7 1/4. So 3/4, 7 1/4. You're gonna flip it to the 8 3/8 side and score at the exact same measurements: 1/4, and 3/4 and 7 1/4. So you're gonna have a larger hang over here. So on one of those pages, you are going to actually cut at a diagonal from the center, from your score lines inward. So basically you're going to cut off this section of paper on that 8 3/8 side. So you'll be left with 1 1/8 inches over here. That's tabbed. All right, hopefully that made sense. So then you are going to take your pages and lay them on one another. I want them to overlap. And on this one, I'm going to add some tape. Just make sure you burnished all your fold lines. I'm going to add some tape, and then I'm going to make sure these line up. Like the you can fold it back, make sure that the pages look like they almost could connect, and the edge should meet that score line on this side. So it should meet that 7 1/4 3/4 score line that you have over here. So basically you'll be left with something that looks like this. Now you can put down your chipboard. You can adhere that. Make sure I center this between my 2 fold marks. So make sure you have a bit of a gap there so your chipboard can fold over smoothly. All right, next I'm going to take my scissors and I am going to miter these corners so I can fold over the edges. And for the middle piece, I'm just going to go up that score line and miter the edges a bit so you can make sure everything is nice and covered the same amount. All right, now add your tape again and fold over the edges. All right, so this is what I am left with. Here is my album cover. And everything opens nicely and it folds out flat. That's what you want. You want it to be able to fold out flat. Okay, so I'm not going to mat this portion yet. You want to do that after you've binded your pages. So I have my binding ring. I have my what will end up being like the cover. So one additional step I'm going to take is because my spine is 1 inch. I've already scored at the 3/8 mark, but now I'm going to score at the 4/8 mark so it can mimic the 1 inch spine. All right, so let's bind our pages. We have our wire here. You're gonna add your pages. All right, so now we're going to grab our page that we have folded in half and punched, and be mindful of what side is the pattern that you would like to be shown. This will be shown like around the spine area, and if it's long enough, it can actually be the mat for the front of your book. So you will want the side that you want to be shown to be on the outside. So you're going to fold it in half like this, and it's going to be on the outside of your page, and you are going to add that on top of your binding. Okay, now we're going to bind this. All right, so this is what it should look like once you've cinched everything, and you are just going to fold the outer side backwards. So now the piece that you are going to actually be adhering should be out. So when it's put down, it will look something like this. All right, and my page, as you can see, does not fully fit the inside of this book, which is fine for me because my plan is to cover it with another 6x6 panel. But if you would like this inside piece to also be your front panel, you will need to add on, I would say at least 2 inches of width to the center page. You could always glue 2 pages together, have them overlap in the center, then punch your holes, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so now since I went back and I added that half inch mark, I should now have a full inch of paper marked out here. So that is my guide for where my page should actually be adhered. All right, so I'm just going to add some adhesive. I have some tacky glue here that just will allow me to reposition this page however I see fit. And I'm going to have to make sure it's centered where it needs to be. So something like this. And then for the back. It should look like this. And if you wanted to, you could always have added some paper or something to cover up the actual spine. Of course, I did not do that because it's not really going to be seen. As long as my top portion is covered, I'm good to go. But when you close your book, it should look something like this. All my pages are in there, and then you can easily flip. So that is that back page. So, and I'm glad I did wet glue there so everything can continue to move. All right, so I have these 2 sheets that I'm going to add to the inside of my book to cover up what I just matted down. But if you wanted to, you could use the same color cardstock as your cover, or what you cover the book with, for the piece that will be laid down on the inside of the book, and that will just make it look more cohesive. I like this little pop of color, so that's why I don't mind it much. All right, so here is how the book is matted. It's not perfect, but that's usually what happens when I make a tutorial. So here are all my pages, and if I didn't mention, I'm using this Winter Market pad from Cartabella for this. I plan on using this as like a December daily type album, but there you can see how my insides of the book look. and the rings do push the pages forward, so that's why I made this 6.5 by 6.5. Just be mindful, you may want to do maybe 6.5 by 7 if this really bothers you, but it does not bother me a bit. So yeah, here is how I make these hidden rings.